Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Folks, a long time ago, one of the first viral videos that I ever released on my channel was journalists asking Donald Trump stupid questions, or Donald Trump responding to stupid journalist questions. It was something along those lines. And you know, that was probably like over 2 years ago at this point. Well, it seems like we're back with the exact same topic of discussion, because a left-wing, Democrat shill, fake news journalist just asked possibly the dumbest, most insane, most hypocritical, most disgustingly dishonest question I think I have ever witnessed. And really, friends, if I'm saying that, then you know it's gotta be absolutely crazy, because obviously Jim Acosta exists. But friends, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating when I say this is possibly the dumbest question ever asked, especially when you consider the context. And to all the lefties out there possibly paying attention now, of course I know there aren't any, or the ones that are just disliking the video and instantly turning it off, this right over here is exactly why right-wingers hate the mainstream media. It's exactly where the term fake news comes from. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. This is why your frustration against the left-wing biased media is totally justified. Let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this. Reporter suffering from TDS asks sheriff if he condemns Trump at a press conference on Democrat official who took the life of a Vegas reporter. Las Vegas Sheriff Joseph Lombardo held a press conference to provide an update on the ending of a Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter Jeff German. Democrat Clark County official Robert Telles was arrested on Wednesday evening on suspicion of murder in connection with the fatal stabbing of Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter Jeff German. Jeff German, 69, was found stabbed to his end in front of his home on Saturday morning. Telles, a Democrat, lost his re-election bid in June's primary after Jeff German exposed the hostile work environment in the Democrat official's office. Jeff German had also recently filed a public records request on emails and text messages between Telles and others in his office, the Las Vegas Review-Journal reported. Telles reportedly had an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate staffer. Sheriff Lombardo held a press conference on Thursday to discuss the arrest of a Democrat official who took Jeff German's life, and a reporter suffering from a bad case of Trump derangement syndrome felt it was appropriate to ask the sheriff if he condemns Trump. You just can't make this stuff up. Take a look at this.
Now is probably not the appropriate time to talk politics, but do you condemn...
So why are we talking politics then?
Do you condemn former President Trump's normalization of violence against journalists?
No, I think this is probably the inappropriate venue to speculate on that or opine on that. I think it needs to be stated and noted that it is troublesome because it is a journalist, and we expect journalism to be open and transparent and a watchdog for government. And when people take it upon themselves to create harm associated with that profession, I think it's very important that we put all eyes on and address the case appropriately, such as we did in this case.
You see what I mean by possibly the dumbest question ever asked by any journalist ever? You see what I was saying in the intro, why it's totally justified why conservatives are completely pissed at the mainstream media left-wing Democrat establishment. I mean, what the actual F? Before I showed you guys the clip, of course I read you the context. I'm sure most of you guys are probably aware of all the details in the story, but think about just how crazy that is. You have this individual right over here named Robert Telles, who was a Democrat Clark County official, a Democrat who suffered some sort of psychotic break after Jeff German, I guess an investigative reporter, exposed his campaign and his work conditions. Then the Democrat politician, the Democrat Clark County official, loses his mind and stabs the man to his ending outside of his home, and the first thing that this journalist decides to ask the sheriff in the press conference is, will you condemn Donald Trump because clearly it's his fault and his rhetoric targeting journalists? I mean, there's layers to this whole thing. This whole thing comes full circle. The person asking this question is a complete lunatic. Of course, I'm not even sure if that needs to be said, but I want to go over the logic or lack thereof. After a crazed Democrat takes someone's life for basically doing legitimate journalism, fake news journalist decides that, you know what, this is probably Donald Trump's fault. The reason this happened is because of Donald Trump's inflammatory rhetoric towards fake news journalists, or claiming that journalists are the enemies of the state. That of course is stupid within itself, but what's even more stupid is that the question itself, this individual, is essentially proving Donald Trump right. The The reason people can't stand you, the reason why people have zero trust in individuals like you and left-wing journalist hacks, left-wing Democrat shills, is because of what you're doing right now. The frustration that people have with the mainstream media are dishonest questions like this. And that has absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Jeff German, who seemed to be a very honorable, very legitimate, credible man and journalist. I mean, complete ignorance of the facts and the nuance. Mr. Jeff German was doing legitimate investigative reporting, covering a clearly psychotic Democrat and the mistreatment of his staffers. That's the kind of thing that Trump supporters and Donald Trump himself and Donald Trump's rhetoric are in complete support of. Legitimate, fact-based journalism and investigative reporting. This reporter's question is so stupid on so many different levels. It's so ridiculous and emotionally unhinged, it's so clearly biased, that this individual is literally proving the other side correct. Maybe Donald Trump's rhetoric against all of you fake news left-wing hacks wasn't just a tyrant trying to put journalists in danger. Maybe he was targeting a real grievance point that was based in reality and actually never led to any journalist ever being put in harm's way from any Republican voter. And maybe, just maybe, the whole violence against journalists narrative is a much more true phenomenon on the left side than it is on the right. I seem to remember this incident with an investigative journalist named, I believe, Andy. Andy No. I can't tell if it's a fabricated memory. Maybe I've just been indoctrinated in the Fox News Donald Trump cult of MAGA. Maybe it's brainwashed, but I seem to remember an individual by the name of Andy No being assaulted by left-wing fanatics on the streets in Portland on 2 specific occasions. I seem to remember random Asian men on the streets of Portland and in other areas being randomly assaulted because they were mistaken for being Andy No. I seem to remember so many countless videos involving investigative journalists being assaulted or intimidated by roaming bands of left-wing activists across the streets. I seem to remember investigative reporters targeting left-wing extremism, receiving death threats and being doxxed and being swatted. Of course, all the threats lobbed at Project Veritas for trying to get to the truth of various different issues. And now I seem to remember in very recent history, in very recent memory, an individual by the name of Jeff German being murdered by a crazed Democrat for doing an accurate expose on a Democrat Clark County official. But I can't tell if I'm just an MK Ultra patient living in some sort of alternate reality, and the true threat to journalists everywhere is actually the evil extremist alt-right Trump voter base. Completely and utterly ridiculous. This is what I mean when I say that Joe Biden's a complete moron and doesn't know what he's talking about, when he claims that MAGA Republicans are the real extremist threat to the homeland. Oh, and remember when Joe Biden instantly flip-flopped the next day and said that he doesn't believe that any Trump supporter is a threat to the nation? Well, here's Joe Biden just yesterday, flip-flopping once again.
We're literally in a battle for America's soul. I know I've been saying it for a year and a half, but I mean it. Extreme MAGA Republicans just don't threaten our personal and economic rights. They embrace political violence. Think about it. They refuse to accept the will of the people. They threaten our very democracy. That's not hyperbole.
MAGA Republicans threaten our very democracy, Joe Biden claims. This whole narrative is falling apart. You know, I take it back to the whole Jussie Smollett incident, where if MAGA racism and extremism was so prevalent, Jussie Smollett wouldn't have had to fake a crime against himself. And if MAGA extremism and violence and intimidation against journalists was so prevalent, then Democrat hacks wouldn't have to take instances of Democrat county officials murdering journalists to then try to make a point about Donald Trump and Republicans. I mean, holy crap, my mind is just blown on this one. I don't even know at this point if what I'm saying is coherent or if I'm making the point as strong as I'm hoping I am. Honestly, I'm at a little bit of a loss for words. I'm just stunned by the level of stupidity and deceitfulness and the multi-leveled hypocrisy of once again claiming that Donald Trump's the problem, as the individual literally proves that Donald Trump's not the problem, you are. This is why people are pissed, because of the constant lies and the constant demonization, the constant partisanship and attacking of Donald Trump and Trump supporters. Republicans aren't following some fascist charismatic leader and attacking the mainstream media for no reason on his request. Republicans are pissed because of people like you doing Like this: Republican anger against the mainstream media is justified. Republican anger against the deep state is justified, and Republican anger against the FBI and other federal agencies is also justified. It's not extremism, it's just people paying attention. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, friends, and I will see you on the next one.